I'm with American Eagle Gold CEO Tony Moreau and Neil Prowse, the VP of Exploration. A lot to talk about this morning. American Eagle Gold recently closed an $8.2 million financing, also added a new board member, former CEO of a pretty big gold mining company. So, Tony, it seems to me, like American Eagle is growing up as a company, and the financing, the size of it, the terms of it, the board addition are strong signs that this is a company that is growing up. So just tell us about how the financing came together and who this new board member is and why it matters.
Yeah, good question. So, I think I forecasted to the market we're fully financed for a 15,000 meter program, and while that was true, it pretty much left us on fumes for cash, and just strategizing. And what I was kind of worried about was, if and when we have some great drill holes, the market's going to expect us to expand our program. They're expect us to do a raise, and that can slow down any kind of momentum that we have in terms of share price appreciation. And it's always easier to get money when you don't necessarily need it. And I happen to be having a call with our biggest independent shareholder, who will remain nameless, but I've consider him a friend. He's given me a lot of really good capital markets advice, and I didn't want to kind of tip my hand at all by saying, what if we needed $5 million? What if we needed it? Because I'd finance you. And within 20 minutes, we kind of hammered out a deal. The most important thing for me was we didn't have any warrants involved. Once you have warrants, the funds, investors can kind of arbitrage you. They sell your shares and hold on to the warrants, even if it comes at a bit of a loss on the share side. And then, for them, the big thing was, making sure it was freely tradable. If they're putting in $5 million, they didn't want to be, left with the bag. They wanted the ability to trade it if they wanted. And, if there were no warrants attached to it, I was comfortable having it kind of freely traded. Someone's going to give me $5 million, the same way if they buy in the open market, they should be allowed to trade it. But these shareholders, there's 4 of them. 3 were individual, wealthy individuals. I said this before. One runs a bank, one started a bank, and one's a mine builder, and then the other one was a big resource fund. And they came in for the $5 million, and they had already owned their shares, so they started buying at lower prices. So they actually averaged up. So these aren't new shareholders, new to the story. They're already current shareholders, and they increased their position. This one shareholder now has 5.5 million shares. So that's how that kind of came about. And I think I told us to Trevor yesterday. It's funny how these things happen. Like, I was literally driving around Sky Zone parking lot with my kids asleep in the car and just hammering out these details. And look, it was a deal I was really happy about. We were able to do charity flow through. So there was a significant premium on the share. So I think the final price was $1.04. And for us, it's all about minimizing dilution and making sure that we have a lot of blue sky in terms of our share price appreciation. So that's how that came about. And, look, we're raising money at higher and higher prices. We're getting better investors coming in, and it shows, the story that we have. We're de-risking this. It's becoming more and more real for investors and other companies kind of looking at us. I talked to a big company at PDAC, and they said, we've been through every piece of your data publicly. And they said, we weren't sure at the beginning, and we're pretty darn sure now. And I think the same way that they look at this, investors look at this, funds are starting to look at us in a different light. And I noticed now new funds that weren't interested in us at 10 cents are now interested in us at 75 cents. And then kind of bringing this full circle, it's all about, all these things add up. And same thing with the board. So I want to add a really credible board member, Alex Stewart, who's Stephen's father. That's no secret. He's been part of our story from the very beginning. He's very important to us, but we thought we'd swap him out, and he's retiring for, somebody that's very credible on the building side, not just someone that fills a seat on our board, but, can give us some advice. Someone has experience, and Gord has experience. Gord Stother doing everything. He helped build the Antamina mine in Peru for Noranda. Big part of building the Cote mine in Ontario, has experience raising money. He's been in the business for 40 years. He was the president of CIM. Really good guy, accessible, lives nearby. And the big thing for me too, he's from BC. He's a BC boy. He went to UBC, and his very first job was actually at the Bell and Grand Isle mine, right next door to NAC. So he's very familiar with the Babine region. So just having that resource on our board that we can talk to give us advice, understands the rocks. And he's actually buddies with Peter O'Grizzo, the guy who's the head Geo4 in Aranda, that loves our story, that did the Bell and Grand Isle mine. So we're kind of like full 360 there. And that's how that all kind of came apart. And it's kind of a similar story, the way we can now raise money at those higher prices. Funds are coming in, same thing. These big board members are now coming in. The same ones I asked to join our company when we were 10 cents are now joining when we're 75, because I think for them it's also de-risk, because they don't want to be part of a company that's not going to be around in a couple of years. They want to be a part of a company that can potentially sell and potentially, be a big mine someday.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's great background. So the treasury is now about 15 million. Is that right?
Yeah, roughly $15 million, Rob. And that's really important. It's all about flexibility. So I can expand my drill program. I can drill in the winter. We can keep our 15,000 meter program and be fully financed for 2025. Also, the beauty is we already have some of the lowest G&A in the business, but with that $15 million, the interest that we receive on it, we pretty much pay for our yearly G&A just with the interest that we get in the bank from that money. So that's really important. So just shows that almost all of that money that we have in the bank right now is going to go into the ground to create more shareholder value.
Okay, great. So with 15 million, that gives you flexibility, quite a bit of flexibility to expand this year's program. So how you're going to have 2 core rigs. How big is this year's program going to be, you think?
It's 15,000 meters till it's not 15,000 meters.
Okay.
I'd rather under promise and over deliver. It's all about what we're hitting. Wouldn't be surprised if we expand it. But basically how it goes is we start drilling next week. I think the first holes are going in the ground on Monday. We are actually mobilizing tomorrow. So today's Wednesday. We're mobilizing on the 23rd, which is a Thursday. So this is really the last time we'll be able to do a call with Neil and I, at least when we're in cities. But we start off with 1 rig, and we drill a hole and a half. And by that time, that second hole is halfway through, the second rig starts running. And that way the team is up and running, and we can properly sequence when the core is coming in. Because you're going to get a lot of core coming into that core shack. You just want to make sure that everyone's prepared. And then you're looking at about 7,500 meters, a rig. So you'll be drilling for that 15,000 meters all the way throughout the end of October. And then, based on what happens, possibly bring a third rig, possibly drill all the way till December. The only time we really have to shut down is, the 3 weeks during Christmas. The boat that brings the barge that brings the equipment back and forth stops running. But it's not too hard to drill in the winter. And the only time you kind of want to avoid being in that region is, probably beginning of April till about now when the snow starts to break up. So got a lot of options there. We'll just see what happens. It's all about cost of capital. It's all about where our stock is, cost of capital, see what we're hitting, etc. But, a lot of things can change. Who knows? Maybe another strategic comes in. Etc. So we'll just kind of take it day by day. But our focus right now is making sure we're mobed, we're ready to drill, and we're just hitting phenomenal stuff.
Okay, so let's bring in Neil. So you did some new IP survey work at NAC, and I hear you have some results back, but it's not fully processed. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we have some preliminary results, just looking at the deep results and some of the higher detail infill results from the area that we surveyed last year, and it's really encouraging to start, specifically in that area, that near surface zone around the southern gold-rich stockwork zone. So integrating the resistivity with the chargeability, there's a very unique middling resistivity response and low chargeability response to that stockwork sulfide, or that stockwork quartz zone, where there's not a ton of sulfide, but quite a bit of gold coming back in the assays. And there's a nice symmetrical signature to that as well as we step to the east, about halfway towards the distance of the final collar location for hole 9. So that's helped us fine tune some of our targeting and where we would eventually put the exploration trail to start our collars and then test deeper. Also, the previously uncovered sort of shoulder model that we followed up on with hole 17 is holding very well too, and there's a even stronger response in the resistivity signature as well as the chargeability signature, of just, you know, coincident geophysical signatures that show, you know, that could be a pretty prospective zone. So yeah, it's given us a bit more confidence in fine-tuning the targeting along that western zone where we're going to infill between the south and the north zones, the near surface stockwork zone, and then as we look to systematically step out towards the east, we have some additional guidance there of where on surface we want to put those collars. So yeah, it's shaping up really well. The thing that we have to do now is get the voxel models for the inversion that integrates the new data with last year's data, and then we have one cohesive data set, and we can generate some really nice images and put that out to the market and kind of show what, you know, what we're seeing and why we continue to be excited.
So with this new data, I didn't quite catch one thing that you just said, but you basically said the chargeability and the, you know, resistivity are correlating very well in which part of the zone, the you know, central zone, you know, between the south and the you know, north. Is that right?
I mean, we see the IP shoulder hold together through that central zone that's completely untested right now. We see that hold together very well. But then also there is a somewhat unique geophysical signature in that stockwork zone where we drilled hole 1 in 2022, where we had 100 meters from surface of 1% copper equivalent, really due to really strong gold support. It was over 1 gram per ton gold over that and about 0.3% copper. So that gold rich near surface zone shows a pretty unique geophysical signature that actually, as we extend those lines out to the east, shows another very, very similar response, which, you know, we're obviously, there's no surface testing there, and there's no deep drilling. So that's an unexplored area that is highly prospective from the recent geophysics we have.
So that's a bit further of a step out to last year's hole 8 and hole 10. You know, like, is that the area that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, if hole 9 was about an 800 meter step out, this area is about a 400 meter step out from. So it's about halfway in between, and yeah, it looks like the signature at depth is maybe a little bit further to the south. So yeah, it's helped us, you know, have a bit more confidence in our targeting out there because we really have very little information. So first order of business when we get the first rig out there is going to be some field crews on the ground, really cover that area fairly comprehensively. We know from hole 9 there is a very strong near surface geochemical anomaly with both molybdenum and copper and gold. So if there's any outcrop at all in that area, we should see some evidence of copper mineralization. That can also help us with our drill targeting. I mean, these till covered areas, there's always a likelihood that there just is an outcrop there, but you never know until you get actually, you know, boots on the ground out there. So yeah, we'll have a modest sized field crew go out with that first rig, and by then we should have the inversion model as well, and we can really, you know, be as efficient as possible with targeting these drill holes. You know, we have some good funding, but you know, we want to make every meter count.
Yeah, that's important because I mean, yeah, the market has been good to American Eagle in 2024, but you can't always count on that to last. You got to make your dollars go as far as they can. So that's very interesting to hear you say that, because I talk to a lot of investors, and some of the ones who are skeptics on AE, one of the points that they throw at me is, well, hole 9 missed. So that means that whole south area is not really that promising. And I said, wait, it's one hole in a huge area. You can't make up a whole lot about one hole. So it's really interesting to hear you say that you have some better targeting there in that wide open space to the south. So let's talk about where you start this year's program. So where do the rigs go to start off with, and what's the first objective?
First objective is going to be following up on hole 17 and starting to the west of the drill area, drilling towards the east, down towards the porphyry stock at depth where we've had a lot of success, and really follow up that IP shoulder and that favorable geology we have from the south to the north. So there's a huge area of rock in there that is untested and highly prospective. So yeah, that's going to be just a matter of systematically stepping but 100-meter step outs to the north sequentially, and then eventually working our way slightly to the northeast of where we ended up drilling in 2023, based on a couple things: favorable geophysics, but also favorable sulfide speciation at depth. So yeah, we're pretty optimistic. There's all the right indications we're seeing are in place for there to be some decent intervals of continuous mineralization along that whole trend. And yeah, we just want to better define that. So that main drilling zone, but just to the west of the main historical drilling zone where it was never tested in 2023, turned out to be some of the strongest results on the property to date. And all of our indications from off-season work, we see the same diking, we see the same host lithologies, and we see the same geophysics. So within a similar proximity to the very large porphyry intrusion, which seems to have worked in conjunction with the diking to prep the ground to hosting that porphyry mineralization. So yeah, everything you want to see to give confidence to that drill targeting is in place. And so yeah, it's just a matter of systematically testing that.
Okay, final question for you, Neil, then we'll go back to Tony. In the deck slide, I don't know, it's one of the later slides, I guess slide 13. It says finding a jewel box. Explain that to the common man. How do you find it?
Well, if the jewel box, as it's laid out in that deck, I guess a little bit of background on that. What we've intersected in numerous holes, both in the south and the north, are some pretty sizable intervals of bornite bearing diking. And this is a dike that is mineralogically or mineralization wise and also compositionally distinct from the other suite of dikes on the property, other suite of porphyry dikes. So this is monzonite to quartz syenite. So a lot more potassium feldspar in this dike, and a really, really large amount of bornite as disseminations. So this is very, very encouraging. This looks like it comes in later. So most of the diking we see in the host rock, the host sedimentary rock, the conglomerate, the sandstones, we don't see those dikes cut the Babine porphyry stock. However, we do see this bornite bearing diking cutting the Babine porphyry stock. So this came in slightly later than what's inferred to be the main driver of mineralization, or at least this geophysical signature, this broader alteration halo, which is the emplacement of that porphyry stock. So these dikes came in slightly later, and this potentially represents the last pulse, but also maybe the strongest pulse of mineralizing event, bringing in a lot of this bornite. And as we get deeper into this dike, you see chalcocite as well. And because of how widespread this is, it's not impossible. It's possible that there is a larger source this intrusion, either lying somewhere within the porphyry stock or somewhere marginal to the porphyry stock, that we haven't hit yet. And so right now, with how sparse the hits are through it and the distance between them, it's pretty tough to vector in. But with systematic drilling, this picture comes into better focus. With more intercepts through this dike, the better handle we'll have on, if these are narrow dikes radiating off of a main body, if these dikes are confined to specific corridors, all of this information is going to be gleaned through systematic drilling and help us vector in. So, the more drilling we do, the more information we have and the more tools we have to vector into this, if it's there, right? But because of the distribution of these dikes and just the nature of them, they're very unique in the region. They weren't at Bell, Grand Island, Morrison. It's exciting, and so yeah, it's a potential. So this is definitely forward looking.
Yeah, no,
but,
I mean, of course,
but
yeah.
We do see evidence of this. So this is, we have a really nice area, broad zone of good BC porphyry grade over a really large volume of rock. But then we also have these higher grade hits that are very closely associated with this phase of diking. And so that's a good thing. So there's, there could be marginal to where we're drilling right now, a potentially pretty high grade body. And so that's always at the back of our mind to, piece together this. Is there a story here coming together that supports that?
Let me jump in really quick, Rob, because you said something
I was about
earlier.
to ask you something. Yeah.
You said something earlier about, anyone that says that 2309 was a miss is an armchair geologist at best. Look, it's not 2317, and I think a lot of people looking at our results, they got spoiled by these great results. But that 2309, I always call it's a drunk hole. We didn't have a lot of information geophysically around that region. No drilling nearby within 750 meters. A lot of the information we had, or most of it, was in the west zone. But Tech said, listen, pretty sure you have grade. We want to make sure you guys have scale. Please drill there for us. And for someone that did 3 financings for us, we said, yeah, we'll go there. And that drill hole we hit, and Neil, you correct me if I'm wrong, there's 125 meters of 0.4% from surface. To drill in a region that hasn't been drilled within a 750 meter radius and hit those results is actually fantastic. And I was in the room when we told Tech that, and for them, that was the most exciting hole. And is that going to make a mine? No, but that $300,000 that you spent to drill that hole, is that giving you at least $300,000 or $400,000 worth of data? And it certainly is, because now it allows us to have the confidence to build a road there, not have to helicopter fly there, and actually have a big program that's going to kind of focus in that southeast area. And I know we've had really good results, but look at 95% of those other BC projects out there. That'd probably be their flagship hole. So, I think people want to see more in that area, but that's a damn good start.
Yeah, okay. I think what I've said before is, if hole 9 was the first hole that was ever drilled in this property, that would be a great hole to drill as your first hole. It was 800 meters away from our main zone, and there's a lot of smoke. The copper was very strongly anomalous right the way down into the porphyry stock, with good molybdenum and gold grades as well. So it has everything you want to see in it. Like Tony said, it's not that high grade booming hole, but it's indicative that this system has some really decent scale. It showed that there's quite a bit of potential out there. It's still a big distance. We still want more information before we go. We're not quite ready to do full 100-meter systematic step outs yet, but like we are in the west zone. But we have a really good indication that again there is the system out in that direction as well. So.
All right. I want to open up the floor to some questions from the audience. So go ahead. If you'd like to ask a question to Tony or Neil, go ahead and ask to speak, and I'll call on you. Tony, so this is an important question in 2024, especially with people having zero attention span in the world today. how do you report results, and how do you keep investors well engaged during the summer?
I think you put your holes together, anywhere between 2 and 4 holes together. And if you have something material, you put it on by itself. And material means another Chilean hole in BC or a complete duster. But besides that, look, when you do your financings, when you put out your news, you just don't want people to have to time it and trade it. I want to find as many long-term investors as possible. And the best way to do that is you kind of get out of the kind of position that you're in whereby people kind of know when your results are coming out. So we want to keep people on their toes. We want to give information in a timely fashion, but definitely not do one drill hole by one drill hole, because one bad or great drill hole is not going to make or break a mine. It's all about putting it together, especially when we're doing 2 rigs. So expect drill hole information to come out every month, plus or minus a week. I would say that's probably the expectation, but we'll just see how it goes. I think we're probably one of the best companies in the exploration business in terms of letting people have access to our geos, to me, answering questions, giving as much information as we can. I think a lot of these people on the call know firsthand. If they want to make a call and have a one-on-one with Neil or myself, we're always available. And kind of coming back, look, I overpromised the market. I said we'd give them this IP information and have a video. But look, we're doing a really busy mob right now, and some family stuff came on with some of our key family members, with some of our key, team members. So I always say family comes first, especially when you'll be gone for the whole summer and into the winter. So focus on that, and we can give the investors the pretty pictures and stuff in a week or two. But in the end, these pretty pictures aren't going to move your stock price. What are the great drill holes. We have all the ingredients for the recipe. Let's see what Mother Nature cooks up for us. And I suspect it's going to be something close to a Thanksgiving feast.
Oh, another classic line from Tony Moreau. Nate Smith, you have a question?
Yeah, hi team. Here, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, hey guys. Hey, thank you for the verbal update there on the IP results there, Neil. I was hoping maybe you could elaborate and expand a bit more on this, what are you going to call it, the fingerprint signature that you're associating the quartz high-grade gold zone. Is that in the southwest to southeast zone, showing extension towards, we'll say, northeast, or is that trending towards that embayment target that's also been touched on in previous studies?
Yeah, I mean, it's trending closer to the embayment target. I don't want to go into too much detail on it, partly because we don't have it yet. There's still some processing to be done, and partly because as that processing is done, it could change very slightly, just in how this, the nature of inversion models is where it's pulling in different data and boundary conditions. Is you can get some changes as there are iterations made to it. So yeah, we want to make sure we have the most complete data we have to plan, and then there'll be some images, and then it'll be a lot easier to speak to. But yeah, it's down in that southeast zone. The northeast right now, that's still coming together, but right now that southeast zone is what would immediately jumped out to a geophysicist when we had a quick meeting of the preliminary data from the deeper seam lines. So yeah, stay tuned for that information to come out. But yeah, it's in that south area and is a much more near surface anomaly than the bulk of the prospective shoulder zone, which is a little bit deeper along the western zone.
No, that's very exciting. Yeah, thank you for clarifying on that. Yeah, look forward to seeing the results.
Yeah, no, likewise.
By the way, the number one bull on AE is Nate Smith. I was having a conversation with him last week online, and I felt like he was going to jump through my laptop screen and punch me by telling me I'm not bullish enough. This guy is super jacked up on American Eagle and this year's program, and he's taught me a lot too in the last several months. So I appreciate Nate and all the data and stuff that you put out there, the content that you put out there. It's been good, and I hope your optimism is rewarded.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rob. You got me chuckling over here. Yeah, and if anybody else wants to ever talk about any of it, I mean, feel free to reach out or go through my Twitter stuff. If you send me a reply, happy to engage.
Just look, Nate's been involved since we're, I think, 8 or 9 cents, and we've given him a lot of access. He's become a friend because you talk to someone so often, and I'm happy to talk about the project. You get to know somebody, and he's a good guy. But I think what it goes to show you, and the same thing goes with guys like Devrin and Vuxin involved in the Wally story. You put in good work and you put in the effort and you identify things, you do have an opportunity to make money and make a name for yourself. So, Nate's from our side, but there's other guys out there. So it just goes to show you. So all those guys have done a really good job. And it's just about putting in the time. But trust me, there's a lot of companies these guys have looked at that they're not talking about because you also put in the time to see what not to invest in. So, in the end, it's still the exploration business. It's busy, but there are a lot of gems out there if you put in the work and try and find them.
I want to ask Tony about a couple of stock picks, but first I want to ask one more question to Neil, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Neil, so you got this porphyry stock in the middle, and there's a donut all around it. I mean, to really simplify this and dumb it down as much as possible, are you just going to drill this whole thing out, like the entire donut? I mean, is that the plan here?
I mean, part of it is an access issue. There's not just the porphyry stock in play, which is driving the mineralization. There's these other diking events, some that came in before the porphyry stock, and look like they've really served to prep the ground to host porphyry mineralization. They've put in a lot of biotite and magnetite, and acted as really good nucleation sites for copper sulfides, which have come in likely during the porphyry stock event, and then also during this later phase of monzonitic diking. So there's a few different things at play. I mean, if it was just the porphyry stock and we weren't seeing this this added complexity of the diking, then I mean a really good way to reconnaissance explore this is put in some deep holes all around this thing. But right now, we have a really great target to focus on and try to put together a body of economic rock. We can get a lot of really good information from that that give us more clues as to how this mineralization formed. And as we do some systematic step outs away from this, and we continue to see the right signs, the right diking, the right mineralization, then I suspect the most responsible way to explore this right now, based on what we have and our current understanding, is to work out from our known zones. That said, if we define something and there's a huge exploration budget, I mean, all of this will eventually get drilled if it shows this western and this southern zone are something potentially economic. So yeah, it's really good to see this geophysical signature. That's what brought the explorers there in the first place. It's what really excited tech, because it shows a lot of scale. It's not quite as simple as that, but yeah, it's still a very good thing to have for sure. And yeah, I think at some point a lot of that ground will be tested.
Just to add on to that for the access, so there's obviously trees there. You got to build a road and stuff, but we've got pretty good indication from the log industry that a big section of our property is going to be clear cut next year. So we'll have a road and access to the entire thing, which is going to completely open up Pandora's box.
Okay, so you got your hands full this year on the west, and maybe extending a little bit to the north and south. There's no reason to worry about the whole donut yet, but maybe next year that will come into play. Tony, final question. Let's not talk about AE. Let's talk about something else. So you're an investor in the sector. You look at a lot of deals. What are a couple of your best ideas right now?
Yeah, good question. First of all, my best stock tip is just to never take a stock tip, because people are trying to fulfill some sort of heuristic behavior of theirs, where trying to make sure that their stock picks are actually make sense. So just telling everyone, don't necessarily follow me, but I'll give you some ideas that I have. So 2 juniors, 1 mid-tier, 1 major. So the two juniors, listen, I've done a lot of work on these guys. I actually am on the board for both of them, so I'm going to just say that right now. But QC Copper for me, look, I just look at things. What hasn't really ridden the wave yet with some of these metal appreciation? Copper going up where it has. QC Copper hasn't done that. They got the biggest open pit, potential mine in Quebec with Opimiska. It's got $30 million market cap. It's only trading about 4 cents off its 52-week low. $30 million market valuation, 2 billion pounds of copper, copper equivalent 1%. I think the reason why it's kind of down is I think it's just a bit of a tired story. But it's just about getting that bid and getting it back to kind of in the investor, thought process. So when I talk about stocks, I'm actually talking about something I'm going to hold on to for 52 weeks. I'm not a trader. So QC is one of them. Another one, again, it's a Wally Resources. I just got welcomed to the board for Wally. I think Wally is the most exciting exploration play in Africa. And it's nice to be part of the most exciting exploration play on two continents, one in American Eagle, one in Wally. But, Wally just did a financing. It took down the stock a little bit. So you're trading right now around 30 cents below its all-time high. And they're fully financed by a company called Newmont, who doesn't mess around with small plays unless they see something that's jurisdiction size. So they're fully funded. They're drilling right now Charger, where they had that big success, but they have 5 targets, 5 potential mines there that they're drilling. So what I'm talking about, where is it going to be in 52 weeks? I would expect a Wally, if everything goes well, to be a lot higher, especially with this gold price. But again, they didn't really see the gold price run because when the gold started moving from 21 to 2,400, they're in the middle of financing. So I think that they're still lower than what they could be. In terms of mid-tier, look, it's all kind of connected to me, but I used to work for IAMGOLD for 10 years. They put in a CEO named Renaud Adams. So Renaud used to run Rosabelle when that was a well-run mine. He went to Primero, then he went to Richmont, sold the company. Then he went to New Gold, got let go from New Gold. The problem with New Gold is that Rainy River wasn't his fault. He didn't buy the mine. But he is what I call a killer. He's willing to identify guys that might not be good for the company. He cleaned up the operations. And what I suspect what's going to happen right now with IAMGOLD in the next 12 months, that company is going to get sold. They have all new board members. They want to sell the company. There's no legacy employees, really. There's no legacy board members. So they're going to clean it up. I suspect they'll probably sell Burkina Faso. They're going to wait till October when, Cote is in your 6 months of commercial production, and then probably package up to sell to a company. A target company, I would think, would be Agnico Eagle. Their Westwood property, which is underground, has had a lot of issues, but it's right in the jurisdiction where LaRonde is, a lot of other Agnico Eagle mines. So at the very worst, they can just utilize the workforce there. At the very best, they can get that Westwood mine back up and running. And then people know about Cote Gold. They have a property, a deposit just as big called Gosselin. So once Cote is up and running, they can worry about financing and build that Gosselin property. And now, Agnico Eagle has 3 of the biggest gold mines in the entire country. So I think IAMGOLD, if you're looking at a kind of a takeover candidate, that's a very good one. It's worth, look at Artemis's value right now versus IAMGOLD. IAMGOLD, I think has more production coming out of it than Artemis. So that's another target. Lastly, I know it's taking a long time. Barrick Resources, $24 right now. Maybe it changed this morning, but gave me a
Gold.
Barrick Gold, 2.5% dividend, undervalued, hasn't ridden the gold price wave. If they can start fixing up their operations, gain a little bit more free cash flow, all sustaining costs, become darlings again in the industry, I could see that thing, appreciating. At least you're getting 2.5% yield out of the stock. So that's kind of my pick in terms of the big boys.
Okay, I got 2 comments for you, or 2 questions for you. One about Awale and one about IAMGOLD. Why did IAMGOLD do this $300 million bot deal? I see their financials. They had like $450 million cash at the end of last year. Why did they suddenly need another $300 million?
Well, I don't work for the company, but look, you always want a bit of a margin of safety. I think they're still building that Cote mine, so they probably need money that way. But they wanted to buy. They're using that to buy back their 10% interest in Sumitomo. So they sold 10% of their ownership to Sumitomo, which pretty much got the company out of the bottom. So if you look at IAMGOLD, it was trading at $1.50 2 years ago. Nobody knew what the valuation for Cote was, and Sumitomo was a really good partner. They probably said, listen, we'll sell you 10% of us, give us a loan. At least you put a marker of what the valuation of Cote is. And since that happened, the value's gone up. But right now, with gold going up, they have the option to buy that back, I think, for between $250 and $300 million. So all that money that they raise is going to buy back that ownership of Cote. So you actually be getting cash from that right away. And again, if they're trying to sell the company, I don't know whether they are or not, they probably want to clean up all their loose ends. So that's probably a loose end they're kind of looking after.
All right, yeah, I like the idea of buying the dip on IMG. If it dips a little more, if it dips back to the 50-day, and then with yeah.
Sorry, they just did a bot financing for $300 million at 417 US. Last I checked, it was 407. So right now I think it's a pretty good entry point. But yeah, if it goes lower, why not? And if National Bank and all those big banks are behind it, there's going to be a lot of sales support, research, etc. So.
Okay,
again,
so you're pounding the table on it right here this morning at 407. Okay.
I don't mind it.
Okay. And then a wallet. So let me play devil's advocate there. I mean, obviously I own the stock and I'm positive on the company, but what do you say to people who say that, a wallet gave away all the upside on the project there, and because they had to do this JV agreement because they had no ability to fund a couple of years ago. What do you say to that there's not a lot of upside left?
What's the valuation? $50 million. I just look. I do comparables. When you're looking at our company, look at comparables. You're looking at Wally. So, what's my best comparable for Wally? Look at drill holes. I compare it to Newfound Gold. So let's say Newfound Gold's at $800 million valuation. If you look at similar drill holes, that Charger drill holes, similar to Newfound Gold's best drill hole. And I guess you look at a Wally and you say, well, listen, that's in Africa, Newfound Gold's in Newfoundland. Okay, fine. But at the same time, I'd rather have Charger's drill hole that's actually continuous disseminated gold as opposed to nuggety stuff the Newfound Gold has. So the Africa thing kind of offsets the fact that they have disseminated drill hole. Then all of a sudden you have an $800 million valuation. What's 25% of that's $200 million. So I think upside, you still got a 4X right there. If you're looking at it, then you're not even counting the fact of the cash they have in the bank and the fact that they raise that money essentially to drill all those other parts of their property that they're not encumbered with that, Newmont partnership to kind of go out there and do something on their own. So you're pretty much getting that value, for free. And then, people say things about the financing. It's, I think it's more the way that it was done. But, the difference in the financing, it's difference of 4% dilution. It's really nothing in the end of things. Stephen Stewart's now the chairman. It shows that companies listen to investors. They made the change, move on. I think it's exciting property. I think it's as exciting as any other exploration company, based in Africa.
Okay, so you're a board member, so you're actually like an insider now. A final question while I have you, and then we really will wrap up this conversation today. They've been drilling for a couple months. Do you think we're going to hear from the company soon?
From who, Wally or us?
Yeah, no, from Wally.
Yeah, I don't like. I would suspect so, just based on when I expect our drill holes to come out. We're just putting them out, but that's something you'd have to.
Okay.
You'd have to ask Andrew Chubb about. I just joined the board, just trying to catch up on things.
Okay.
And look, that's a good thing to put out. I am an insider. I don't have any inside information, but as an investor, I would have told you that same thing last week before I joined the board. Been investing in Wally for well over a year now. I think it's a great company run by a really smart individual. Andrew Chubb is also just as good of a guy.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Nate. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. I will upload this to my YouTube in the next couple of days, so you can expect that on Goldfinger Capital. Have a great day, everybody. And until next time, cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Fine.